What's going on, guys? Tobin here with you. Thanks for checking us on out. It's good. It's good to just be back home. Good to be back home, relaxing. Finished jury duty today. I'll get more into that during the Tobin and Leroy show. So check us on out there, WQM YouTube page, or all of our podcast platforms. Wherever you bring us in your ears, you bring us with your eyes, whatever it may be. But I will say with jury duty, I certainly didn't want to spend one of these elongated trials. I'm a bit of a workaholic. I really enjoy my job. I don't like being away from my job. And, that was definitely something hanging over your head as you're doing this. But I will say, overall, when you kind of just let go and be like, well, I got selected. I got selected. I didn't get, selected and then the pool. I was one of 6 jurors today in a trial. And I was like, this is happening. And I was told when the day started, they had said it's going to be a 1-day trial. And so it kind of eased my mind a little bit. And once I went into it, I was like, you know what? I kind of dig this whole, getting to see the real life of Law and Order and things like that and seeing how the whole process worked. Fascinating system to be on that side. Your boy's never been arrested. I've never been on trial before. So the only other time I was on jury duty, it was back when I was living in Broward. So this was my first time getting called in Palm Beach, but it was my first time living in Broward, and it actually turned out to be a murder case. I don't even actually know if they were charging murder, if it was conspiracy to cover up. I don't know, because there were 2 guys who did it, and one snitched on the other or something like that, and that guy had flipped. So either way, I didn't end up getting chosen, but it was one of those things where they had said something in regards to alligators or something like that. It was something that really stood out with you in the weirdness of the questions. And they always say oh, you shouldn't, Google. This one I actually didn't, because I couldn't it was too vague of a case for them to for you to Google it. This one actually happened to be a hardcore case, and there were actually details on it. And I was like, whoa. And it actually ended up being on A&E. It was some dudes who, ended up killing a woman, and they threw her body in the Everglades, and they ended up praying to some alligator statue that the alligators would eat her. And they almost got away with it if it wasn't for we have Publix down here. That's kind of our go-to other than Winn-Dixie, but they had their version of that. And this woman's, head was found in this thing floating in the Everglades in this really odd shopping bag from New York's version of Publix. And so I guess that was a big lead that led to these guys and the whole deal. So I never got picked for that trial, but I was in the pool of selections when they were narrowing down who they wanted for the jury. And crazy enough, that ended up being on one of those A&E something or another cases. And I was like, whoa, I was blown out, getting all the details of it. So, but yeah, jury duty. That was a thing. That's where I was at for most of the day today. Anywho, that's part of the reason I didn't react to last night's Miami Heat loss. I was boots on the ground. I was feeling it on the pregame as the Heat, just when you thought rock bottom was losing to the Grizzlies sitting everybody, the Heat grab a shovel and say, watch this. And they lose to the Detroit Pistons. And, what else can we say about the game? It's turning the page. They're getting into the Clippers. Kawhi Leonard played tonight against the Orlando Magic, so I would doubt that he is going to play coming up tomorrow night against the Heat. I would say that pretty unlikely, although I would tell you, in all honesty, and I'm dead ass serious about this, I would rather the Heat play any contending team at full strength. I would rather them play than a dog bleep team or a team sitting their stars. If you told me the Heat were going up tonight, if they had, back-to-backs coming up against Boston and Milwaukee, and that was supposed to, I think I would like that better than them taking on Houston and the Pistons. Because I was looking at the schedule and I'm looking at the Heat and I'm like, oh man, theoretically, this should be a good time to get going. This should be a good time to really start fluffing up your schedule. and theoretically blew up in my face in the fourth quarter when Bojan Bogdanovic wouldn't stop hitting threes. So one of the fascinating things that happened yesterday after this coverage, TNT, look at them, little engine that could. They decide, hey, let's talk about the Miami Heat. Let's dive into them. And Charles Barkley, he comes out and he says that they should basically blow it up. He thinks they should start over. He thinks it's over. And this has been a case that you have heard this. I've heard it from Bill Simmons. He was asking if they're dead, but then he beat the Celtics. He's like, well, they're not dead. But I'm sure if he did a podcast today, they are back dead. And, there's been other entities that are wondering, what are these guys, are they even close to any of the top three teams? And I would say, if you look at them now, no, it doesn't appear that way. But it is December 7th, and it is I'm taping this on December 7th, with minutes to go on December 7th. By the time this posts, it'll probably actually be December 8th. And you have a lot of people wondering, is this Heat team ever going to get back to what it was? I don't know. I will say this. I still think there is plenty of time left. I think there is plenty of time to right the ship. I have been more annoyed with these two past losses than I have been really with any loss this season, except for like the Kings when we all thought the Kings were terrible. That was like the most annoyed I was early in the year. This has been the most annoyed I have been recently because after the Celtics, my hopes were starting to get up. I'm not going to lie. People are like, oh, you're an idiot if you got fooled by that win. I don't think I should be. I think that this team has shown against the best competition, they can hang. And so the frustrating thing is when they go against lesser competition and they poop the bed. And the issue against the Grizzlies was parade to the paint. The issue with the Pistons was, hey, maybe we should guard the three-point line because that's seemingly the only thing that they got. So it was interesting, though, going to that game because you had a couple of things. One, Jimmy Butler was sitting out for something called return to competition reconditioning. It's a term I've never, ever heard of before. I don't know what the hell that means. Is that like he's not in shape? I can't imagine that. Jimmy Butler works out very hard and has his plethora of trainers and is one of the hardest workers in the league. I can't imagine. Is it just a fancy way of saying rest because the Heat are obsessive about not being a maintenance program team, even though with Dwayne Wade, they kind of were one of the teams that invented or helped harbor a long maintenance program. I don't know. Is it because Jimmy Butler didn't want it to be called rest? I don't know. But he didn't play. Even though I would say that the Memphis game wasn't the most strenuous, but I get it. He is just coming back from a knee injury, and he did have a stressful game against the Celtics and did not have that against the Grizzlies. But look, I get it with Jimmy Butler. They are always uber careful with him because they know he has to go balls to the wall every playoffs. And because Jimmy Butler does go balls to the wall every playoffs, and for his two best playoff runs has seen bodies fall apart from him, whether it be Goran, whether it be Kyle Lowry, whether it be Tyler Hero, whether it be Bam's arm. I'm not as annoyed with the big picture there. I think I'm just more annoyed with everything because of where the team has been at over the last 72 hours. But the other big piece of news was Victor Oladipo. Victor Oladipo made his season debut for the Miami Heat. And the numbers aren't fantastic for Vic, but it has been a long time coming. And I think that the Heat's organizational argument for, quote unquote, running it back this year would be the idea that, well, we're really going to get to see what Victor Oladipo can bring to the table. And I will say, I don't know what this is going to look like through the grind of a season because it's hard to give Vic's body the benefit of the doubt right now. Even though he gutted it out for them in the playoffs when the whole goal of him was just to get back on the court by the end of last year, didn't really have any chemistry with this unit. And now you get him back at the beginning of December. That's a lot more time to get Victor Oladipo situated, to get Victor Oladipo the proper role, to get Victor Oladipo to know his teammates. I just think he's just got much more of a fair shot to have a real impact. And I will say, watching him, I don't want to judge too much on the just the box score of it. I'll just tell you, being there in person, watching him, I thought that he looked great. I thought physically He looked very aggressive. There were a couple times where he had open threes. He decided to drive. He pulled a couple nice moves on some defenders. He looked like he had a lot of his tricks there. The big thing that was noticeable about him, super aggressive and still has just a real propensity to draw contact. And we even saw this last year when he didn't have the sharpest offensive game, that this guy still knows how to draw free throws, and that just comes natural to him. I think for Victor Oladipo, the things that come natural to him, drawing contact, being a balls-to-the-wall defender. And quite frankly, are two things that this Heat team really, really needs. And I think especially needs to bolster something on that bench. They really haven't been getting anything from their bench over the last few games. And I think he could be a big help for that. But it is interesting. I do wonder where the patience is at with the front office. It was interesting. This could be something. It could be nothing. I don't know what to make of it. But I will tell you something that was odd yesterday going to the Heat game is typically you go to a Heat game, two things will happen. One, curtains open on the floor. You walk out. You can watch Kyle Lowry warm up. He's the first guy there, and then the whole cycle of the players go through it. Or it'll be closed, and they're doing a shoot around, and that's secret. Shh, don't do it. I don't know why they, do it on that court rather than the upstairs court. I guess it's an eye-line thing, whatever. But, and from time to time, you'll see Mickey Harrison there watching a walkthrough. You'll see him still straggling the stands. You'll see Andy Ellisberg. But this one kind of caught me off guard because everybody who'd gone to a Heat game, where Pat Riley sits. Pat Riley sits at this table, this two-layered table with Alonzo Mourning, Adam Simon, and Andy Ellisberg, and I think Ron Rothstein's there from time to time. And that's kind of where that's like the Heat brain trust all sits there as they watch the game. And so I've seen, walking around the arena, I've seen Andy Ellisberg. He's hobnobbing. He's a nice guy. Everybody seems to like talking to Big Andy. And, so that's not an odd thing to see him kind of gallivanting around the arena lower bowl before a game. It is odd to see Pat. It's not a common thing. It doesn't never happen, but it's very, very rare in the home games I've covered over the last, 4 seasons, whatever. I mean, mix in a pandemic there, but it's an odd thing to see. And I walk through the little curtains there. It's like a couple hours before, or it's like 5:20 at this time. And around 5:20 is right before Duncan Robinson and Bam Adebayo warm up. They warm up typically around 5:30 for a 7:30 tip. They were there a little bit earlier. So I don't know if they just rolled on over from the shooter. I don't know. But watching them warm up and sitting at their tables were Andy Ellisberg, and there was Pat Riley. Pat Riley was there watching them warm up, which was an odd thing. Now, I'm sure, maybe he was there hanging out from the shoot-around, the closed shoot-around, and, was getting a little look-see, didn't leave his seat. I don't know. It was just an odd thing to see. You don't really typically see him hang out there for the eyes to see before a Heat game, and he was there. And I just found that to be a little bit of an odd step. I don't know if he was getting an extra eye on things. I don't know if they were mean about some stuff. I don't know if he just wanted a pulse on Nikola Jovic's jump shot. It could be something. It could be nothing. I don't know. I will say, after Bojan Bogdanovic hit his gazillion three, Pat Riley, he wasn't sticking around to watch the end of that game. He got the hell out of that seat, and who could blame him? If I could have taken my headset off and walked out the building, I might have done that too. But either way, this team does have to find a way to get things right. And, I did like physically what I saw from Victor Oladipo. And I do think that his addition can be intriguing to this team. It's just about finding that right matchup, that right mix. I don't really want to hear too much from this team anymore about the lineup thing, though. I thought Ethan made some good points to the players when Ethan Skolnick was asking in the locker room. He's like, hey, you guys are talking about this. He's not challenging, but he's asking in a very professional, journalistic way, which Ethan would do, in the idea of why is it, paraphrasing, why is it such an issue this year with the lineups in and out? You guys dealt with this last year at a much more major level because at times last year were basically out on their, you know, 3 of their top 4 guys. They were out on Bam Adebayo because of thumb surgery. They were out for Jimmy Butler for various injuries, and they were out on Kyle Lowry for personal reasons. And they still found a way to flourish. They still found a way to capitalize. And to hear this year, the guys are in, they're out, they're in there. I will say the one thing that's a little bit, concerning is they're still looking for that, those guys who are just like the knockdown shooters on this team and having that dangerous weapon there. And certainly Max Strus shows some explosive games, and there are games where he's cold. That's how it's going to average out. Duncan Robinson doesn't look like that guy anymore. I mean, I think it all just feels broken with him. And I don't even mean it's just a question of his shot, which, everybody used to feel like every shot Duncan Robinson took. It's just like his role with the team, his vibe with the team, his importance to the team isn't in the same place. Tyler, though, I will say, I mean, his game offensively against the Pistons was a beaut to watch. So, look, they gotta start stacking things, man. I think we've all kind of are banging our heads against the wall. It was exciting to see Victor Oladipo back out there. This team continues to get as whole as possible. I feel like for the most part, my patience has been pretty strong this season, but I gotta say, man, it was tested. It has been tested and thinned out over these last 2 losses. I was very, very pissed off about the Grizzlies game, and I was just like, I don't even know what the emotion I was by the Pistons game. I would think I was so much more embarrassed by the Grizzlies game, and then watching the Pistons in person, no microphones. I got home at like 1 a.m. after the game, and I'm just like, who's gonna watch a Heat Pistons recap at 1 a.m? And then it's like I got jury duty in the morning. You know what? I probably should just decompress from this game. But the debut of Vic interested me, and then seeing Barkley saying that they're blowing it up, and it'll be interesting. I don't know. I don't know if it does have very much the 2021 run it back vibes, where they basically brought everybody back, didn't sign. The parallels are odd, because you think about that season. Think about this. You have the team went to the finals. They come back. Very slow start to the season. Basically brought back the same team outside of not re-signing Jay Crowder. What don't they do this year? Don't re-sign PJ Tucker. They have a first-round pick who is a very, very interesting, young, raw prospect who feels like he could help, but you don't know if the coaching staff has the patience to put him through it as a big, and Precious Achiuwa, dealing with that with Nikola Jovic. And, you had Jimmy Butler dealing with a myriad of injuries. Jimmy Butler had one of, I think, when he played, that was where we got Jimmy. That was one of his, I think there's an argument it's his best Heat regular season that season. They needed every bit of Jimmy Butler to carry them, to make them a respectable team that year. Remember, he had the term stupidly locked in, and of course they got hit by a Bucks truck once they got to that first round. Now, Fugazi's season, because, no rest, but even still, the parallels of running it back with very similar rosters and being in this spot, it's feeling very, very, very much in the same ilk of that season. And bringing in a guy like Victor Oladipo, as far as like getting a real Victor Oladipo to add to this bench and really stick with it and really see if he could add something to you, that could be the big dynamic change that could spark something for them, because they just feel like I think with the Heat, it feels like on some, like there's just no plan B if plan A doesn't go right for them, and adding something like Victor Oladipo just could be somewhat of a spark that they need. But I'm not gonna lie, look, man, you have these last couple ones, you're scrambling for it, and so I think everybody's in kind of show me mode with the squad right now.